The air itself hummed here, you know? Not like machinery, exactly. More like a choir of invisible insects made of static and wind chimes. They called this place the Resonance Spine, a mountain range that wasn't quite rock anymore. Well, it was rock, obviously, but it was also something else. Ancient geological strata pulsed with faint, rhythmic light, lines of emerald and sapphire energy tracing paths like glowing veins across sheer cliff faces that stretched miles high, disappearing into clouds thick with swirling data mist. It was said the mountains remembered everything, every tectonic shift, every lost civilization, every whispered spell cast upon their slopes millennia ago. And now they were learning new things, integrating the ceaseless chatter of the noosphere, the digital ghosts of a million networks. Lyra, she was just a speck against the immensity, her small skimmer barely a mote of dust against the colossal peaks. Her task, well, it wasn't about her, not really. It was about understanding the spine itself. She adjusted a sensor array, its crystalline lens trying to capture the subtle shifts in the mountain's energy signatures. Below, valleys weren't just carved by glaciers, but by streams of raw data flowing like liquid light, pooling into lakes that shimmered with corrupted code, glitches manifesting as momentary, beautiful, dangerous fractals on the surface. Strange creatures navigated this hybrid world. Imagine, if you can, great. Six-legged beast with hides, like obsidian, interwoven with fiber-optic threads that pulsed with the mountain's own light. They moved with slow, deliberate grace, their calls echoing, not just through the air but across local data spectra, brief bursts of pure, untranslatable information. Lyra had logged them as Geo-Titans. Creative, right? They seemed passive, mostly. More like living parts of the landscape than traditional animals. Their existence tied to the health of the mountain's energy flows. Then there were the Cipher-Wyrms, serpentine constructs of light and solidified data that coiled around the lesser peaks like living lightning rods, absorbing atmospheric energy and sometimes discharging it in unpredictable, incandescent bursts. They were beautiful, terrifying, utterly alien. Lyra had seen one phase through solid rock once, leaving behind only a faint ozone smell and a cascade of glittering, harmless error messages in the air. Her skimmer followed a data river upstream, the light reflecting off the polished canopy. The river wasn't water. It felt cool, yes, but flowed with the viscosity of magnetic fluid, patterns swirling within it like a billion tiny computations resolving. Along its banks, the vegetation was spectacular. Trees with bark like mother of pearl, their leaves vast solar, sails woven from biological cells, and photoreactive polymers, turning slowly to track hidden energy conduits within the earth. Strange, bell-shaped fungi pulsed with soft luminescence, releasing spores that drifted like tiny data packets, carrying fragments of the mountain's memories. Some spores, if inhaled, could supposedly grant fleeting visions, glimpses of the past, or potential futures encoded in the spine's deep memory. Lyra avoided them mostly. The objective was resonance mapping, charting the harmonics of the mountain's core consciousness, if you could call it that. It was believed the resonance spine acted as a planetary regulator, its ancient magic and newly integrated technology forming a complex system that influenced weather patterns, geological stability, maybe even the psychic currents of the whole world. But lately the harmony was off. Dissonant chords echoed through the data streams, glitches in the matrix, manifesting as physical phenomena. Rock slides that flowed uphill, rivers that momentarily ran backward, patches of air where gravity flickered like a dying light bulb. This corruption, it was subtle but spreading. Some blamed off-world AIs meddling where they shouldn't. Others whispered of an ancient, malevolent magic stirring within the deepest strata, woken by the influx of technology. Lyra's sensors picked up a spike, a wave of discordant energy, washing down from the higher peaks. Ahead, the data river churned, its usual placid flow turning turbulent. Collars shifted, the clear emerald light darkening, shot through with streaks of angry crimson static. A low groan resonated through the skimmer's hull, not just sound, but a pressure. A physical weight of distorted information. A section of the cliff face ahead seemed to detach. Not crumble, but unfold, revealing an interior lattice of glowing crystal and crackling energy. It reformed itself into something vaguely insectoid, vast and multi-limbed. A glitch construct, born from the corrupted data flow. It wasn't alive in the biological sense, more like a localized error given temporary, terrifying form. It radiated instability. Lyra banked her skimmer hard, the small craft buffeted by waves of distorted reality. The construct swiped a limb, made of fractured light and stone, through the space her skimmer had occupied. A second before, her focus remained external, capturing readings, observing the entity's interaction with the environment. How did it draw power? How did its presence affect the local resonance? It seemed to feed on the corrupted data stream, growing more defined, more dangerous, as it absorbed the chaotic energy. It let out a shriek that was half grinding rock, half dial-up modern scream. Another creature emerged from the glowing river itself. This one was sleeker, more organic, resembling a colossal manta ray made of solidified, shimmering data mist, trailing tendrils of pure energy. A stream guardian, perhaps. It rose to meet the glitch construct, not necessarily to protect Lyra, but to protect its domain, the river. The two entities clashed. A battle not of flesh and blood, but of code and energy, magic and mathematics. Light exploded, reality buckled momentarily around them. Emerald versus crimson. Order versus chaos, kind of. Lyra maneuvered, keeping her distance, letting her instruments drink it all in. The Geo-Titans on the distant slopes paused their slow browsing, their fiber-optic hides flickering in response to the energy surges. The Cipher-Wyrms coiled tighter around their peaks, drawing in power. The whole mountain seemed to hold its breath, watching the localized conflict unfold. This place, the resonant spine. It was ancient, powerful, and now becoming something entirely new. A crucible where the oldest magic met the newest technology. And the results? Well, they were wild, unpredictable, dangerous, and utterly breathtaking. The clash below sent ripples across the data lake. Further down the valley, the surface momentarily displaying the combatants' energy, signatures like ghostly reflections. Lyra recorded the duration, the intensity, the frequency shifts. The stream guardian, fluid and adaptable, seemed to be containing the glitch construct, weaving nets of stable code around its chaotic form. The construct thrashed, shedding fragments of rock and corrupted light, but its form flickered, destabilizing. Eventually, with a final burst of static, the glitch construct dissolved, its energy signature unraveling back into the background noise of the mountain. The stream guardian hovered for a moment, its form pulsing softly, before sinking back into the now calming data river, leaving only ripples and fading lines of emerald light. Lyra exhaled slowly. Just another day observing the ecosystem, you know. The corrupted signature was logged, its parameters cross-referenced. This particular strain of glitch seemed localized, maybe a result of a solar flare, interacting badly with an ancient ward stone buried deep within the rock, amplified by the tech integration. Or maybe it was intentional, a probe, an attack. The possibilities were unsettling. She guided the skimmer further up the valley towards the higher peaks, where the resonance was strongest and the integration deepest. Here the mountainsides were patchworks of exposed crystal, massive geode-like structures, kilometers across, glittering with internal light. Within these crystalline caverns, it was said, lived the echo shards, sentient crystalline entities that communicated through complex light patterns and resonant frequencies. They were shy, ancient, and held keys to the mountain's deepest secrets. Flying closer, Lyra could see the entrance to one such geode cavern, a perfect archway, framing a view of slowly rotating crystal clusters, each facet catching and refracting the ambient energy. The air here felt thick, charged like breathing pure information. Strange, geometric flora grew on the crystal surfaces, plants that fed directly on the resonant energy, their leaves like tuning forks, vibrating with silent music. And sometimes, if you were lucky, or perhaps unlucky, you might glimpse an echo shard itself, a fleeting shimmer of complex light, a presence felt more than seen. Were they magic? Were they AI? Or something in between, born from the unique fusion of this world? The sensors chirped again, a different kind of reading. Not corruption this time, but coherence. A powerful harmonic resonance emanating from deep within the geode network. It was complex, layered, carrying information too dense for her current instruments to fully decipher. It felt like an invitation or a warning. The mountains were communicating, not just humming with power, but actively processing, reacting, perhaps even thinking in their own slow geological timescale, accelerated by the integrated tech. Lyra logged the coordinates, the frequency pattern. Her objective wasn't to interfere, just to map, to understand the symphony, playing out in rock and light and code. But the scale of it all, it was humbling. These weren't just mountains. They were living entities, evolving, adapting, struggling with their own internal conflicts. Between ancient magic and encroaching technology, between stability and the creeping chaos of corrupted data. Below, another Geo-Titan lumbered past, its obsidian hide briefly catching the light from the geode entrance, revealing intricate, circuit-like patterns etched deep into its surface. It paused, tilting its massive head as if listening to the harmonic resonance Lyra's sensors were detecting. Maybe they understood it better than she could. They were part of it, after all. The world here was alive in ways few could comprehend. A dynamic tapestry woven from threads of deep time, potent magic, and the relentless advance of artificial intelligence. And the resonant spine was its heart, beating with a rhythm both ancient and entirely new. The challenge was just listening closely enough. Lyra adjusted her course, heading towards the source of the harmonic signal, deeper into the crystalline heart of the living mountains. The skimmer, a tiny inquisitive spark against the vast, glowing unknown. The air grew warmer, the hum intensifying, becoming almost a physical pressure. The walls of the passage she entered weren't rock, but polished, translucent crystal, revealing glimpses of immense structures within, like the organs of some sleeping god made of light and stone. Data streams flowed visibly here, not as rivers, but as intricate, braided currents moving through the crystal itself, illuminating vast, hollow chambers filled with geometric formations that pulsed in time with the harmonic resonance. This was the core network, the central processing unit, if you will, of the resonance spine, and it was beautiful. But the beauty was edged with something else. The glitch constructs might be born in the periphery, but the source of the instability, the dissonance, it likely originated here in the heart. Lyra spotted movement, not a creature this time, but a pattern shift in the light flows ahead. A section of the crystal wall seemed to ripple, displaying complex, shifting symbols that resolved into a recognizable, albeit ancient, magical warding matrix. But overlaid on it, interwoven with it, were lines of glowing code, constantly rewriting, adapting, reinforcing the ward. Magic and tech working in tandem, actively defending this core area. Against what? The crimson corruption pulsed faintly against the barrier, like waves against a shore, seeking entry, seeking to overwrite the harmony. So the spine was fighting back. It wasn't just passively integrating. It was actively curating its own evolution, using its combined magical and technological heritage to maintain stability. But the pressure was immense. Lyra could feel it, a sense of immense concentration, of a vast intelligence stretched thin, holding back chaos. Her sensors went wild, capturing terabytes of data in seconds. The sheer complexity of the interaction was staggering. Ancient spells, encoded into algorithms, data streams channeled through ley lines, crystalline structures, functioning as both magical foci and quantum processors. It was a symbiosis pushed to its absolute limit. Suddenly, a section of the ward flickered violently, crimson light flaring as the corruption found a momentary weakness. A pulse of chaotic energy washed through the chamber, making the skimmer shudder. Lyra felt a wave of disorientation, her vision momentarily filled with fractured images, echoes of the mountain's pain, its struggle. And in that fractured moment, she saw it. Deep within the core, at the heart of the harmonic resonance, wasn't just crystal and light. There was something else, something vast, organic yet crystalline. A heartstone, maybe. No, more complex. A bioforge, a consciousness incubator. It pulsed with immense power, the source of the mountain's life, its magic, its data network. And attached to it, like parasites, were tendrils of the crimson corruption, subtly altering its output, introducing the dissonance. The source wasn't external meddling or just random glitches. It was an internal infection, something twisting the mountain's own power against itself. The ward stabilized. The crimson flare subsided, but the image remained burned into Lyra's mind. Her mission parameters hadn't included intervention, only mapping. But seeing the heart, seeing the infection, understanding the resonance patterns now felt incomplete. The true pattern was the struggle itself, the harmony fighting against the growing dissonance originating from its very core. She carefully backed the skimmer away, out of the core chamber, the immense pressure slowly receding. The knowledge she carried now was far more significant than mere harmonic charts. The resonance spine wasn't just integrating. It was fighting a war within itself, a war between its ancient magical nature and a technological corruption that had taken root in its very heart. The fate of this world might just depend on the outcome of that silent, colossal struggle, played out in shifting light, resonating crystal, and conflicting code deep within the living mountains. The journey back felt different. Every pulse of light in the rock, every call of a Geo-Titan, every flicker of a Cipher-Wyrm, now viewed through the lens of that internal conflict. The beauty was still there, but now it was the beauty of resilience, of a system under immense strain, holding itself together against incredible odds. The mapping was just the beginning, Understanding was the first step. What came next? Well, that was a question for wiser minds, perhaps. Or maybe, just maybe, for someone who had seen the heart of the struggle firsthand. The skimmer broke free from the mountain valleys, rising back into the open sky, leaving the humming peaks behind, their secrets now a heavy weight in Lyra's logs, the silent song of their struggle echoing in her sensors. The resonant spine stood sentinel, a monument to a future unfolding, where magic and machine danced on the edge of creation and corruption. A breathtaking, terrifying, magnificent future.